What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So oftentimes in the NHL, we talk about the star players. You watch the game to watch the star players, the guys that are absolutely killing it. Kirill Kaprizov off to an heart lead. Quinn Hughes looking like he could potentially go back-to-back for the Norris. But today, I wanted to shine some light on some of the more underrated seasons, underrated players that we are seeing this season, because there's a couple guys that are really just popping off and are not getting nearly enough love. Spoiler alert, all these guys are going to be on like smaller market teams. No shit. The bigger market teams get more coverage, so when their guys break out, you hear about it more on TSN, ESPN, or TNT or Sportsnet. So we're going to go through 8 of the most underrated guys, underrated seasons thus far in the NHL. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. And up first, we are going with an Ottawa Senator, Drake Batherson. Obviously, last night had a monster night. He had a hat trick and an assist. But even before that, he was playing fantastic. He kind of inspired this post because right now he has 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points in 28 games. He has fully emerged yet again as a star. He was playing fantastic back in, I think it was the 2022 season, when he had 44 points in 46 games. Then he got hurt. He didn't really rebound. He didn't look like the same player after that, but still was very good, around 60-ish points. It looks like that he is fully back. His 6x4.975 is an absolute steal for the Ottawa Senators. Has been before this, but now he is truly playing like an elite player, like a borderline top 60, top 50 player in the entire NHL. I'd argue that he's playing better than Brady Tkachuk this season, and he's been able to drive his own line, and especially his defensive game has come a long way. He was always a hard-nosed, very physical guy, but his defensive awareness, defensive positioning wasn't quite there. He's really giving a shit on the defensive side, and obviously when you're clicking at like above 90-point pace that he is right now, he's been fantastic. He has definitely been an underrated guy. You hear more about Stützle, you hear more about Tkachuk. Drake Batherson has been almost just as good as those guys, just as good as Tim Stützle early on. Next up, Dylan Holloway. Early on in the season, you heard about Philip Broberg, considering the fact he had 9 points in his first 12 games. And with Broberg, we thought when the offer sheet happened, like $4.6 million. That's a bit of an overpayment. So Dylan Holloway, which we thought was like more so just like a good deal to only give up a third-round pick, didn't get talked about a lot. He is playing great, especially of late. He has 10 goals, 9 assists, 19 points in 29 games thus far, is a +9 for the St. Louis Blues. Went from playing 11 minutes a night to 15 this year. The underlying numbers are great, and I just think with Dylan Holloway, when he was trapped in that bottom 6, more so like fourth line role in Edmonton, he was playing a little bit conservative, considering the fact that they didn't need him to be this offensive stud. They just needed him to play solid two-way hockey. In St. Louis, he has definitely obviously elevated his role to playing a solid like second line role. And with this guy, the skating was always there. He's one of the best skaters in the NHL. He's really just put it together now that he has more room for errors with the St. Louis Blues. They're expecting him to be a serious player, and he has emerged in a big way. Could potentially be a 55-point guy this year. That is insane that they only gave up $2.3 million and a third-round pick for Dylan Holloway. Great move by Doug Armstrong as well at Phil Broberg as well. But again, Broberg's been getting the respect. I needed to give Dylan Holloway some love because he's a very underrated player right now. Cole Sillinger. Cole Sillinger is also having a very, very good season. And with Cole Sillinger, I feel like he's been in the league for 4 seasons, so I think that people naturally think that he's much older than he is. He's only 21 years old. He debuted immediately in the NHL, then had a rough sophomore season, had like 9 points in 63 games, bounced back a little bit last year, and this year is playing damn good. 18 points in 29 games right now. Again, still only 21 years old. If he just debuted this season and had 18 points in 27 games, we'd be talking about him being one of the best U23 players in the entire NHL, one of the brightest futures. But it just feels like he's been around forever. And obviously some coaches maybe ruined his development early on. After that good first season, he's a very solid power forward. Last year had 74 block shots, 111 hits. So on that Columbus team where guys like Kent Johnson, Kirill Marchenko, Sean Monahan, rightfully so, are getting their flowers in terms of their forward core, I wanted to shine some light on Cole Sillinger. Moving on, we got Anthony Cirelli, who always has been respected in NHL circles among NHL fans as more of a defensive guy, around the 40 to 50 point. He has a career high of 45 points, but definitely more of that shutdown number 2 center for Tampa Bay. And he's yet again elite defensively. He's arguably going to be up there for the Selke at the end of the season. He's 8th in terms of evolving hockey. It was like a Boston accent that came out. Evolving hockey's even strength defense stat. but it's the offense that has been so impressive this year. He has 11 goals, 13 assists, and 24 points in 25 games. And again, he hasn't been playing with Gensel, Kucherov, or Point. It's been him and Brandon Hagel, who have just been such an effective line for this second team. And as a result, him and Hagel are in the top 10 of Evolving Hockey's even strength offense stat. If you go solely off the underlying numbers, Anthony Cirelli has a case to be a top 10, maybe even top 5 player in the entire NHL. I'm not going to make that case. I don't think that he's a top 10 player or anything like that, but he has really emerged in terms of his offensive game. He was always solid offensively, but not really relied on to do a ton, especially when they had Steven Stamkos. But when they needed him to step up in a big way, he has stepped up in a big way and has really solidified himself as not just one of the best defensive forwards, more so one of the more complete players in the entire NHL. I'm not sure he's going to be cracking my top 50 in the NHL, but you could definitely make arguments given just how consistent he's been defensively, and now he's showing those offensive strides. It's been really impressive, and that's a big reason why Tampa right now is in a playoff spot. Bias pick coming up, Anders Lee. He is killing it, man. He is absolutely killing it. Last season, had 20 goals, 17 assists, 37 points in 80 games. You thought, we might have to buy this dude out. We might have to trade this dude. Even though he's our captain, he has another 2 or 3 years left at $7 million. He was like a $3.5, $4 million player last season, but then he plays very good against Carolina Hurricanes, had 4 points in 5 games, was arguably our best player in that series. In this season, he's looking like 2018 Anders Lee when he scored 40 goals. Right now, he has, let me pull it up, 13 goals, 11 assists, 24 points in 30 games. And it is not fluky at all. In fact, he is actually underperforming his expected goals total. He has 14 expected goals this season. That is 4th in the entire NHL. He's generating an all-time career high in shots on goal at 3.1 per game. Last year, that was only at 2.28. When Duclair and Barzal went down, kind of leaving Horvat without his line mates, he stepped up. They have a 58% goals percentage this season, 54% expected goals percentage. He's been awesome. He is not still very slow, but he has been able to utilize his body in terms of in the front of the net and just keeping possessions alive in the offensive zone on the boards. It has been awesome to watch. One of my favorite players of all time as a New York Islander. I grew up with this guy. Really just find his game yet again, and at this point isn't going to get traded. There's not going to be some kind of disgusting breakup here. I absolutely love it. And if he wasn't playing at the level that he's playing at, not saying the Islanders are in some good position, but they'd probably safely be a bottom 5 team. I know that they're like a bottom 12 team right now, so that's not saying that much, but he's really bailed out this team at times and has arguably been their best player this season. How crazy is that to say? It's kind of an indictment maybe on the Islanders, but he's genuinely been a very elite player this season. Next up, Jason Zucker. When looking at him, 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 points in 28 games right now. I mocked this signing, considering they signed him 1 year at $5 million. He was coming off a season where he only had 32 points in 68 games. He's looking like the late 2010s Wild version of Jason Zucker. Not exactly when he scored like 33 and 33 that one season. That was insane. But yeah, he has been a very effective second liner for this team. Playing with Greenway and McLeod, they're outscoring opponents right now 10-7. It's been very impressive. He's been the best player on that line. He has a 50.6% expected goals percentage, 5th best on the entire Buffalo Sabres. So yeah, hand up. I fucked this up. I said that he was going to be a bad ad, or I just said, like, why the hell are you spending that? They should have spent more money. They left like $6 million in cap space. But this season, he's been like a $5.5 to $6 million player. It's been very impressive to see Zucker kind of have this bounce back. Next up, Damon Severson. The contract is still bad. I'm not going to act like he has completely turned around my thoughts on that. He still has 6 years left after this. It's $6.25 million. He's like 30 or 31 years old. But this season, he has been very good, especially in the shadow of Zach Werenski. It's why he hasn't really gotten the love that he's had. Guys like Severson and Sillinger are part of the reason why this team is actually far outperforming what we expected. Right now, he's on pace for 47 points, has 16 points in 28 games. The offensive underlying numbers are awesome with this guy. He has been consistently one of the better offensive defensemen. Last year just didn't really translate into points because Columbus was kind of a shit show. Right now, with at least 500 minutes in terms of defensemen, he ranks 8th in the even strength offense department, according to Evolving Hockey, alongside guys like Dougie Hamilton, Sergachev, Quinn Hughes, and Erik Karlsson. He's been exceptional as a puck-moving defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets and really leading to their offense being much better than we expected in terms of goals per game. I think they're still top 5 in the entire NHL. I know Werenski's going to get all the love, and rightfully so. He should arguably be in Norris finalist discussions, but Damon Severson as that number 2 offensive defenseman, like last year, was mainly just Werenski. Severson has stepped up in a big way and led to this offense being so dynamic. Lastly, Joey Daccord. And I guess you maybe can argue that he's not that underrated because he got a decent amount of light shined on him when it was looking like Team Canada might take him to Four Nations if he was eligible. But he's been awesome, man, this season. He's 12-6-1 on not that good of a Kraken team, has a 9-16. And last year, he had a 9-16 as well. Like, this guy is a legit top 12 to 13 goaltender in the NHL. I think that he's in that 11 to 14 range given his track record. And last year it was very impressive, but the Kraken actually were a very good defensive team. They were second in the entire NHL in terms of expected goals against per 60 in all situations, only behind the Carolina Hurricanes. I know that sounds crazy. Last year he only had 3.8 goals saved to expected because that defense was still good. He was still good. This season it's flipped. The Kraken are not that good of a defensive team. They ranked 23rd in that department, in part because Vince Dunn obviously missed like 5 to 6 weeks. But right now he ranks 7th in the entire NHL in goals saved above expected with the same save percentage of a 916, which puts him 7th in the NHL, 9.2 goals saved above expected. He's playing surefire like a top 10 goalie in the entire NHL, and he needs to get his damn respect because we're going on now a season and a third of him being a legit top 15, borderline top 10 goalie in the entire NHL. And it's wild because this guy was just floating around the AHL for 4 or 5 seasons before this, and now he's absolutely hit the ground running in Seattle. Good for him. So, to wrap it up, Batherson, Holloway, Sillinger, Cirelli, Lee, Zucker, Severson, and Daccord. Let me know in the comments who are some other guys you think are having very underrated seasons, and I'll be seeing the next one.